Bubba Scrubba, Fantasy Sports, Advice and Analysis, Volume 3, Episode 12. Marker. Good morning, everybody. I just completed a 14-team draft. Well, I shouldn't say I just completed. I completed it last week prior to Week 2 preseason games. However, nothing really happened in the Week 2 games that's really going to change how this draft went down. The only real news of note is the Ashton Genty injury, which turned out to be a big nothing burger, thank God. But let's go through the draft, show you the team I came up with, and then afterwards we'll go over just a few news and notes from around the league after this weekend's games. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so as I said, I did a 14-team draft. I had pick number 2. In this particular one, I didn't have a choice for this series. I was trying to, kind of get in the middle if I could, just to get a baseline. But picking on one end or the other is useful. So we won't spend a lot of time in round 1 for obvious reasons. That being said, as you can see, Gibby was the first pick. Second pick is pretty simple, Bijan, and the rest of the first round fairly simple and straightforward as far as how it went down. I will say one player of note is Achan keeps kind of creeping up the board here in my 12-team draft from last week. You saw that Achan, I believe, was the 12th pick. This guy was going mid to late second round as of a few weeks ago. Now he's creeping into the end of the first round. Okay, as we get into round 2, we see Ken Walker here. We see Omar Ryan. We see Ashton Genty, we see D. Henry. So basically what's happened here is at the beginning of draft season, this glut of running backs was going in the mid to late second round. These guys are now going in the early second round as draft strategies have evolved. Drake London, as I've said in a previous video, might be going a little bit too early. Michael Penix coming back to practice may improve his draft value. I'm just not really bullish on Tua Tagovailoa this year. A.J. Brown, obviously a wild card, has all the physical tools, has the potential elite quarterback play. Is it all going to come together for him in year 1 in New England? Time will tell. Brock Bowers, like this pick. Nico Collins. Now, this is going to be a more interesting pick because of the fact that New England just pulled off a trade Houston pulled off a trade for New England's Keyshawn Butte. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. Josh Jacobs. So this is a little bit of a surprising pick considering that, 1, we don't know about Josh Jacobs' potential suspension, and 2, this Marshawn Lloyd has actually showed out pretty well, especially in the second preseason game. Looked powerful, looked explosive, scored a touchdown, and looks like he could have carved out a role for himself regardless of Josh Jacobs' health and or suspension status. George Pickens, neighbors. Don't have a problem with any of these picks, really. Even Josh Allen here. So it comes to me, and I'm just looking to get a second elite running back, and I go in for Kyren here. I think Kyren paired with Bijan is about as good of a 1-2 punch as you're going to do in a 14-team draft. So then, of course, we get into round 3. I got the tight turnaround here, which I love. And so I go Olave. There was really no other thought for me here. Maybe McBride, maybe Rashee Rice, but Olave I feel like has probably the best upside for a wide receiver 1. Now, of course, is he really a wide receiver 1? No, but because we're doing a 14-team draft, you have to kind of make a sacrifice somewhere. I'd rather draft 2 top-end running backs and then just kind of fill in the blanks with wide receivers. Breece Hall. I said this in the last video, just not bullish on the Jets offense in general. I feel like with Geno Smith playing quarterback, I mean, this guy's going to be seeing ghosts all year. What is he, 36, 37? I mean, he was just never, even when he went to Seattle and he kind of turned his career around, he was really just still a game manager. This guy, Breece Hall, I mean, he's a good player, but I mean, if he was on Kansas City, if he was on Seattle, I mean, he'd be a superstar. But on the Jets, he's going to see 8 in the box all season long, and he's going to get injured eventually. I just don't see any upside here. I'd rather have Javonte. I'd rather have DeAndre. I'd definitely rather have Etienne, especially in the wake of the Alvin Kamara injury. I think all of those are better picks than Brees Hall. All right, enough said. Higgins, McConkey, Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle. Okay, I'm just not bullish on this pick either. There are a lot of mouths to feed in Denver. You still have Cortland Sutton. You still have Troy Franklin. You still have, I think Pat Bryant is the one that's going to win the wide receiver 3 job there. You still have Marvin Mims. And then this RJ Harvey, they had in their preseason game, this Harvey came out and ran a wheel route, and Bo Nix hit him in stride in the end zone, like 15 yards deep. And this guy made a hell of a catch. He looks like he's a receiving weapon out of the backfield. So, and you have Evan Engram still too. So I don't know. It's such a muddled, jumbled mess that I don't know what you're going to get out of it. Now, there's going to be production to be had. I just don't know why would you, until it shakes out. I mean, I'd rather, we can go deeper. We'll go into round 4, but there's still a glut of guys I'd rather have instead of Waddle. Egbuka, I mean, of course, the talent is there. The opportunity is there in Tampa, but this guy has a turf toe injury. And turf toes are notorious for wide receivers and running backs. It's tough to plant. It's tough to cut. It's a hard injury to come back from. You can't play on it. You have to take time off. And, this guy's not going to want to take time off, so it's going to sap his effectiveness. Colston Loveland, very popular pick at tight end. What is this? The 3rd tight end off the board now. Bowers, McBride, and now Loveland. A little rich for my blood based off of not even a half season of production. That being said, all signs pointing up for this guy. So let's get into round 4 here. Of course, in a 14-team draft, when you're picking at round or, number 2 overall pick, you're picking at one end or the other. There's going to be an eternity between picks. You're going to watch a lot of guys come off the board. So Lamar Jackson, this is the 2nd quarterback. So this is the 2nd draft in a row where Lamar is the 2nd quarterback off the board. Again, I've said this before. They have a new offensive coordinator, the new head coach, new offensive coordinator. This offensive coordinator, by all accounts, wants to pass the ball more and wants to run the ball less with Lamar, which makes sense given that Lamar's getting a little bit older. You're trying to keep him upright. You're trying to keep him healthier. However, one of the things that, dials in Lamar's fantasy value is his ability to run the football. If you take that away, I feel like you take away what makes him special, especially in a fantasy perspective, a fantasy arena. So I don't think Lamar Jackson is not Peyton Manning. He's not a traditional drop back passer in that regard. I'm not saying he can't do that. I'm just saying that that's not necessarily his strength. So I don't think people are overdrafting him. Until we know how this offense is going to shake out, I don't think you're looking at Lamar Jackson 4,500 passing yards. I just don't see that in 40 touchdowns. I just don't see it. So anyway, Tet McMillan. Here's an example of a guy I'd rather have than, I'm not even excited about this guy, but I'd rather have him than Waddle. Garrett Wilson. Okay, I've said it again. I'll say it again. Don't like the Jets offense. Don't like Geno Wilson. Don't know why somebody would draft Garrett Wilson. Rather have McLaurin. Rather have McMillan. From a receiver, I'd rather have Devontae. Rather have Luther Burden. Hell, I'd rather have DJ Moore than all of those guys. But anyway. Montgomery. Just not a sexy pick. I think a lot of people are thinking that because he's going to be in Houston, that he's going to be some usage monster there. I just read something that expect it's not going to be quite 50-50. Let's say 55-45 between him and Woody Marks. And obviously Marks is the younger, more spry back. I mean, Montgomery's the hammer, so he's probably going to get more of the short yardage. He's going to get probably the goal line looks, most of them. So, but I just don't see Houston having some juggernaut offense. So at least going into the season, it doesn't look that way. Now, of course, in the NFL, that's where, this complete surprise factor comes into play. Everybody's has written off CJ Stroud. Could this be the year that CJ Stroud has an MVP season? I know it sounds silly, but this could be the year that he does. And then Montgomery has 12 touchdowns. I mean, he looks like some brilliant pick. But just based off of going into this year, it just doesn't look like it. It just seems like I'd rather have Jadarian Price, better team, better situation, rookie with a lot of juice. So long as he's not a zero and pass pro, I would say that this guy is more intriguing and has just more raw upside, kind of like a Travion Henderson 2.0. Quinshawn Judkins, kind of polarizing figure. Obviously, last year had a pretty good season, but did suffer a gruesome graphic injury. Now he's coming back off of that injury, and now you've got Deshaun Watson as your starting quarterback, and you're like, oh, their offense is going to be competent enough to support this guy as an RB2. I don't see it. Cam Scatterbo, here's another guy. Giants just went and got Najee Harris. Now, Tyrone Tracy has just basically been a zero this training camp. So in the first preseason game, he had a swing and a miss. He whiffed bad on a pass pro where Jackson Dart took a huge hit and then had to go to the blue medical tent to get evaluated for a concussion, which apparently he passed, but that's never a good look for a running back. Then in the last preseason game, he fumbled in the red zone, put the ball on the ground, and it had a turnover. So this guy's basically falling out of favor. I think that's one of the reasons why they brought in Najee Harris, is because now they've lost all faith in Tyrone Tracy. But if they thought that Cam Scatterbo was a 3-down banger, they wouldn't have brought him in. And you still have Devin Singletary too. So this is too rich for my blood in round 4. I love the Devontae pick here. Luther Burden, I like this pick here. Bucky Irving, I like this pick here. Even DJ Moore, I like this pick here, even though the DJ Moore situation is akin to what's going on in Denver. You've got DJ Moore, you've got Shakir, you've got Keon Coleman, you've got Dalton Kincaid, you've got Cook, who by all accounts is going to get a lot more receiving looks out of the backfield. So we're not really quite sure how this is going to shake out. That being said, I'd put more money on DJ Moore having a big season than, let's say Quinshawn Judkins maybe. And then I come to my pick, and I have, here we go, Christian Watson. I like Christian Watson. I hate Christian Watson. He seems to, obviously he has prototypical size, and in Green Bay's offense, he's going to be playing the split end. He's going to be stretch the field in the end zone. He's going to be the high pointer that you're going to throw the back shoulder fade to, but he always gets hurt. But, again, in this situation, we just have to go for the best available. We're going for upside here. I did think about Tyler Warren as well. I do like his situation in Indianapolis, especially considering the ongoing Alec Pierce situation and his injury. But Tyler Warren is also injured with a groin injury, so I kind of want to just stay away from that. My strategy in this year's draft is to I'm fading quarterback, I'm fading tight end, and I'm just going running back, wide receiver, loading up heavy in the middle there. So I'll go Watson. So that puts me, I got a couple of running backs, and I have a couple of interesting wide receivers in Olave and Watson. So again, we got a tight turn here. I like Odunze too. I thought about, this would be a guy I would have considered if he was there. But then I can't say no to Travion. I was thinking about Tootin as well. I guess I'm just not 100% sold on this guy. Travion, we saw what he could do last year. He had a stretch where he was just tearing it up. He does have to work on his pass pro apparently, but the opportunity, if he can clean that up, this guy has the potential, the runway to just take off with this job. And let's say the second half of the season, when you need him the most, when you need somebody to hit the afterburner, he would be there for you. And so I'm looking at this as an upside pick for a guy in his second year. I like this pick. Of course, there's a little bit of risk there. I'm not going to take Mike Evans here because of the injury risk. Again, I'm going to fade the quarterback position. Tucker Kraft, way too early as far as I'm concerned at the tight end position here. I'd rather have a Laporta potentially than him. Jaden Daniels, I don't like the weapons they have in Washington. I'm not convinced that they have enough talent to support him as a top end quarterback. However, if this guy does have the individual skills to become, let's just say, Lamar Jackson 2.0, and if that's the case, then he has the potential to be a league winner. I just don't like the vibes around Joe Burrow. I just, for whatever reason, I just think Cincinnati is either going to take off this year or they are going to fall apart this year. And I just don't like the vibes. I think he wants out. I think he might get his wish at the end of the season, especially if things go sideways. Marvin Harrison, great upside pick here. Just don't know what you're going to get. Jamison Williams, you do know what you're going to get. You're going to get a burner, but you just don't know how many touchdowns. I do like Jalen Hurts here, though. I think this is definitely a solid pick right here. I would prefer Jalen Hurts over both Burrow and Daniels as a steadier quarterback. He's probably right at Drake May's tier. Ramondre, no issue with this pick. Travion's got the upside. Ramondre is the steadier player. At least this is more of a beginning of the season pick. This is more, Travion's more of the second half kind of season pick, and I'm playing for the championship. Like Laporta here, I prefer Laporta over Kraft. And I love this Parker Washington pick. Parker Washington, by all accounts, is the wide receiver one in Jacksonville. If they play anywhere close to how they played in the second half of last year, this is a steal of a pick. This guy will be like, people will say, why didn't this guy get picked in the fourth round or earlier? Okay. He's getting picked way. I'd rather have Parker Washington than Jalen Waddle. I'd rather have Parker Washington than, who else do we have up here? I'd rather have Parker Washington than McLaurin, than Garrett Wilson, than McMillan, than Igwika, than Waddle. That's how much I'd rather have Parker Washington. Then, there's 4 or 5 guys there. So we're in round 5. Okay, so let's go to round 6 here. Jalen Warren, Caleb Williams, like the upside here. Herbert. These are nice. I like Williams as a steady player with upside. I like Herbert as a steady player who's just steady. You got a good floor with him. Tony Pollard, Tennessee, just nothing sexy there. Harold Fannin, don't like Cleveland, man. Don't like Watson. I don't know. My advice, stay away from shitty teams, bad offensive situations. There is points to be had, of course, but I just, okay, Dak Prescott, love this pick. He is my preferred quarterback fade. When you get into 6th, 7th, 8th quarterback off the board, would love to have Dak Prescott as my quarterback. Chuba's hurt. He's nicked up. Jonathan Brooks has been going off of the board in front of him. As we see, there's Brooks right there. By the time that the season shakes out, this Brooksy could be ahead of Hubbard. This is a 1A, 1B situation, a headache for fantasy. A lot like this Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle. I mean, it's a 1A, 1B. Okay, so the Carolina situation, I have less faith in trying to project who has what role. I think Brooks is more right now the more first, second down banger, and Hubbard's more of the third down receiving specialist guy if we had to pigeonhole him. Dowdle seems to be more of the first, second down banger, and Warren more of the third down receiving back role. But I do think that Warren's going to get his fair share of first, second down looks. And Dowdle's not a zero in the passing game either. So if I had to guess, I'd say Dowdle's probably going to get more of the short yardage stuff, just like I would say that Brooks is probably going to get more of the short yardage stuff. So when in doubt, I'd rather have the guys who are probably going to be in the heavy packages that are going to be, at the goal line getting the touchdown runs. Of course, I'd rather have those guys than necessarily the third down guys that get catches, unless that's like their total speciality. But it's so hard when you get into this kind of miasma here as to who to pick, when to pick. So I'm just looking for straight upside, okay? I don't like this Carnell Tate pick here. He's a rookie. He's on a bad offense. I just don't, in the first 2 preseason games, this guy has showed nothing. And then so what you do is you contrast that with like a Deshaun Stribling with the 49ers. I will admit that I'm a 49ers fan, so I'm a homer. But you see this Stribling. He had 6 catches in his first preseason game. He had 4 catches in his second preseason game. Okay, he's a rookie. He was a second round pick. This is a top 10 pick right here. And this guy's doing nothing. Okay. And you have a second round guy who's totally outplaying him. So it has nothing to do with, oh, he's only a rookie or whatever. It's just a bad situation all the way around. I understand upside, upside, upside. I just don't like this pick here. I'd rather have Brian Thomas. I'd rather have Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson. So we had Harrison last round. If we just look at the arbitrage of would you rather pick Marvin Harrison in round 5 or Michael Wilson in round 6, go with Michael Wilson. I'd rather have Travion. So who is the guy here? So B. We'll just look at the 2 picks here. I got Travion and Michael Wilson. B got Dak, and he got Marvin Harrison. Now, I do like the Dak pick. I have to admit that. But I prefer, personally, I'd rather have Wilson and Travion. And you'll see who my quarterback is because I drafted him in the next round, and that's Brock Purdy. And then B got Dalton Kincaid. I'd prefer my 3 picks over his 3 picks if we just pick, those 2 guys head to head right there. This J.K. Dobbins pick, not a fan. Not a fan at all. There's a rookie in Denver too. His name is escaping me, but even this guy's coming on. Sean Payton, I just don't. Dobbins is a walking injury case. He'll be effective so long as he's healthy, but to pick him as your 3rd running back, I mean, there's just nothing there. It's just no juice at all. You're getting a guy he's not going to be on the field in 3rd downs. He might not even be on the field in the second half of the season, and he might get outplayed by a rookie by the second half of the season, even if he is healthy. Just nothing there. I'd rather have Blake Corum, to be honest with you. Godwin. I like the Godwin pick because in Tampa, there's really nobody else right now. A lot of guys are injured there. Obviously, we were talking about Ibuika being injured. Jalen McMillan is injured right now. So Godwin is kind of the last man standing. I like Tez Johnson there as well. I think that's a decent late round dart throw in Tampa. And that also makes Kenny Gainwell look pretty good as the 3rd down receiving specialist. And even Cade Otton as a very desperate tight end play if you have nobody else, okay? George Kittle could prove to be a steal. He just came off the PUP list, which means basically the Niners think that he has a chance to be ready for week 1. They wouldn't have taken him off if they thought he wasn't going to be. Round 7, I mean, if he was fully healthy, he'd be going a round or 2 earlier, but let's not forget that regardless of the fact that he's coming off of an Achilles tear, the guy's 32 years old, so he's, getting to the point where he's about to fall off of a cliff physically. That being said, this is pretty good value, but I'd be scared if I was a George Kittle owner. I'd want to have a plan B, or at least get Jake Tonjes, who is his backup with the 49ers, because Tonjes, they throw the ball to him when he is not in the lineup, and he gets touchdowns. So I would be like, my last pick would be Tonjes and have him as my backup, my plan B for Kittle. Jordan Mason. Haven't said much about him in Minnesota. This is year 2 for him there. Aaron Jones not getting any younger, so I feel like Mason actually has some decent upside this year. Will it be capped by Kyler Murray's running ability? I don't know. That's a good question. I feel like Jordan Mason, though, is a hammer. He's going to get some touchdown looks. Really depends on how good Minnesota's going to be this year. Is Minnesota going to be a team that's going to come out of nowhere and play better than they are, or is this going to just be Kyler descending into the pits of hell, and basically watching his career go down the toilet? I'm really not trying to bet on the Minnesota offense whatsoever outside of Justin Jefferson. I'll take a pick. I'll take a swing on Justin Jefferson if I can get him in round 2. Okay. But otherwise, I'm staying away from Minnesota. DK Metcalf. Not sure why he's going so late. I guess it's just because old man Rodgers, and maybe just because he just has not, in Seattle, he was pretty decent. Since he's gone to Pittsburgh, he's just been less, just not as productive. And then I guess people are saying, well, they have Michael Pittman now too. In a perfect world, Michael Pittman is not on the same physical level as DK Metcalf. As a wide receiver 4, I feel like you could do worse than DK. I really do feel like you could, but a lot of people are really down on this guy, it seems like, at least from a draft strategy. Now, here's another interesting guy, Matthew Golden. This guy's going into year 2. He's locked up the starting flanker position in Green Bay. So he's going to be on the field in 12 personnel. So 12 personnel, 1 tight end, 2 wide receiver. So no reason why this guy shouldn't be getting, a decent amount of balls thrown his way. And he was a first-round pick. He was the first-round pick that Green Bay has used on a wide receiver in something like 20 years. So obviously they saw something there. And now he's in, year 2. I feel like this is a nice little upside pick. And this is a decent value for a guy who's going to be starting for them. I don't have a problem making this pick right here. This actually could be a really nice value there. Dalton Kincaid, I've been on the Dalton Kincaid bandwagon a lot. I love the offense. I love his game. He just cannot stay healthy. He's already hurt again. It's always going to be, he's, questionable. Every week it's going to be questionable. Oh, every week it's going to be game time decision. This is a guy that you definitely have to have a contingency plan in place, and not Dawson Knox. It's got to be some other guy with a lower end tight end one with upside, somebody that nobody is, counting on right now. Maybe a little later in the draft we can find. Maybe like if you get Dalton Kincaid, you got to get like a Jake Ferguson from Dallas, or you got to get one of these like a Colby Parkinson or this Terrence Ferguson from the Rams, and hope that one of those guys goes off. And then you have your contingency plan. Or you could just have a headache, because then if Kincaid plays every week and then you're like, which guy do I play? I don't know. But so maybe that's the reason why you stay away altogether. Bo Nix should be a solid player this year. He's definitely a mid to lower end QB1. No issue with this. Kelsey could be good value. Really depends on Mahomes' knee. Dallas Goedert. Never was a huge fan of his game. I mean, he's obviously a great, he's a perfectly serviceable NFL tight end. As far as a fantasy player, nothing sexy there. Maybe he'll see more production in this new Philadelphia offense. I don't know. Really don't have anything to say about this, Bill Krosky Merritt. Got a lot of hype last year for a guy who was a 6th-round pick and really only delivered 1 game. And then they brought in Rachaad White, and this guy still anointed the starter for whatever reason. And they're, people are still on the hype train. I guess they just feel like, well, somebody's got to get, the reps. Honestly, I kind of feel like Jaden Daniels is probably going to get the goal line carries. You know what I mean? I just don't see that this guy has tons of upside. I don't know. Let somebody else take him. Okay, here's Houston defense. I think this is a mistake. You'll see later on. I went with Seattle defense, and I'll tell you why. Because I think the Seattle defense is, as a unit, not as good as Houston, but Seattle's return game is infinitely better. And in fantasy, you want the defense that's, shutdown defense, but also has the electric punt/kick returner, which Seattle does have, and Rashid Shaheed. More to come on that. So I personally would prefer to see Seattle here. I picked Seattle in this draft, so I got him a round or 2 later. So I feel like I got it. And then here you got the Rams. So, we're going like, they're just going off of the name here. This is more of a name pick. I think I got the best defense in the league, based off of just the return game alone. Okay, so we got a couple of defenses here. No problem. You're trying to fill out your roster. These are the best, some of the best. Obviously, now we're getting into the part of the draft where we're getting the auto pick. People aren't paying attention. This Jordan Tyson should not be even on a draft board. Rookie, injured, going to be out multiple months. The only way you're drafting this guy is if you're picking him with your last pick and you have an IR slot, and then you're going to put him on IR. That's the only reason you pick him. Otherwise, he should go undrafted. This Josh Downs is a very good value for round 8, because this guy's going to be the wide receiver 1 in Indy from jump, and is becoming a very popular sleeper pick because of what's happened with Alec Pierce. Stephon Diggs, by all accounts, he just signed with Washington last week. and has already apparently got some good chemistry with Jaden Daniels. I think Diggs is past his prime personally. I don't think there's a lot there. Of course, I'd rather have McLaurin. There's going to be some production there, but I just don't think it's going to be anything. I'd rather have Quentin Johnston, rather have him. I'd rather take Pierce and just, you might have to, have him on IR for a week or two and then get him, back week 3 or whatever, whenever he comes back. Rather take the chance on him there than go for Diggs. I just, I don't really feel like it's more like all name, no game at this point. RJ Harvey, not a horrible pick here. Really depends on how much they're going to use him out as a receiver out of the backfield. He did okay as a starter last year after Dobbins went down, but obviously not good enough because Denver did invest a premium pick on another running back in the draft this year. But he did make a nice catch on that wheel route in the preseason game. So, Stafford could be, I mean, for a guy who's coming off an MVP season, this is a pretty good value pick. I mean, I thought, I'm doing the QB fade, and then I'm like, okay, I want Dak or Purdy, right? That's like my sweet spot. Dak, I prefer Dak. I'll accept Purdy being a 49ers fan. But we look here, and I mean, okay, then you forget, you're like, oh, yeah, I could get Stafford too. Now, I think most people are saying 38 years old, is this guy going to stay upright for a full season? I mean, on one hand, it's funny because Vegas has, the Rams as the odds-on favorites go to the Super Bowl. And, that's based off of the assumption that Stafford's going to deliver a near MVP season again, or at least stay healthy the whole season. Whereas the fantasy community, I think, has it pegged correctly. This guy wouldn't be going in round 8 if everybody thought that he was going to have a 2.0. You know what I mean? So we'll see about that. Anyway, so as we see, we get to my pick here, Monin guy. He is hurt, but I like his upside in the Chicago offense. So I think he's going to, maybe miss a game or 2 to start the season. But this guy is the banger in Chicago. I think this is year 2 for him. I would not be surprised to see this guy have a stretch or 2 this year where he kind of goes off. I think this is a pretty good pick for your for a 14-team draft, running back 4, running back 5, forget which one. I think these are my 4 in this draft. We'll go back up and look here. So then again, we got the tight turn, and I go for this Makai Lemon here. So, all right, so this, video is getting kind of long here. We're at 30 minutes, so we'll wrap it up. We'll just kind of go down. Okay, round 10, I went with Ferguson. I went with Seattle defense. And then I went with Pacheco. And I went with AJ Barner. Just kind of, this guy's getting a lot of good positive press out of Seattle camp being in his second year. He did score 6 touchdowns as a rookie last year. Apparently, this guy is ascending and on his way up as a tight end. Could be a worse way to spend a draft pick as a bad. This would be maybe a good way to use your backup if you had George Kittle. Get an AJ Barner and see how he does. He might be starting for you. Who knows? So let's just go back up real quick and we'll just check out the whole team here. So my starters: Bijan, Kyren, Brock Purdy at quarterback. Let's say in my league we do 3 wide receivers. So let's just say I've got Olave, I've got Christian Watson, got Michael Wilson. And then let's say at flex, I'm playing anybody like Travion. I'm playing potentially Monenga. I'm playing potentially Makai Lemon. And then I've got a tight end Ferguson or Barner. Got a nice backup here in Pacheco if he stays healthy. And I would never draft a second quarterback, so that's a wasted pick for me. That was auto pick at that point. And I like the Seattle defense. So I think on a 14-team league, that's a pretty solid team. I've got, wide receivers probably. Wide receiver and tight end are probably the 2 weakest positions. I got a solid quarterback. I got some solid running backs with upside. And, maybe you make a trade later on. So, yeah, no, feeling pretty good about that. Well, at 35 minutes, we're going to cut the video short. I was going to do some news. We'll just do a separate video for that, for some news and notes. I'll probably do maybe another 12, maybe another 14-team draft before I run my actual real draft. We're getting into, so this weekend I'll be doing my real draft. Hell, maybe I'll even record the draft and, as it's going on. and give some analysis as I'm doing the picks, and because that's even more exciting, obviously, than doing it in real time, obviously, than doing a mock draft and then just going over the picks. Anyway, yeah, thanks for everybody who is actually watching this bullshit. I do appreciate it. Put your questions below. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon.